Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. The old Linerlock. A while back we did the lockbacks, and then someone started up on Linerlocks. I do not have nearly as many Linerlocks as I do lockbacks. Linerlocks are something that I'm really not crazy about. However, a couple knives that I do collect on a routine basis do have Linerlocks. Surprisingly, however, they do not lock a cutting blade, but they lock a tool on the knife. And so we'll show those real quick, and that is like the electrician knife, or as you can see on this one, the TL29, which is what they're called in the U.S. military. They have the locking screwdriver blade, and you see this one actually says that the blade locks, see there somewhere in there, lock to left, and you see the lock there. And that's the kind of lock you see on a lot of knives. And this Linerlock, they are not something new. Linerlocks have been around since the 19th century, so if anyone thinks that a Linerlock was something new, very much so not. They've been around forever. And as you know, on the electrician knife, the main blade does not lock. The other knife that I collect a lot of are Cub Scout knives, and again, it's the tools that lock, not the main blade. So what we have here is a modern day Cub Scout knife, and it's one of the more interesting ones because it is a green bone handle. Most Cub Scout knives are either blue or black, but this one is actually in green bone. And again, you see the main blade does not lock, but the tools have the push here dummy locks for the main for all the tools. So the cap lifter and bottle opener lock, as well as the punch blade on the other end. So you got two locks going on there. This one over here, this is a little loose, but when you have a knife that is as uncommon as this one, you grab it no matter what, simply because, well, you just don't see a lot of green Cub Scout knives. And finally, well, here's one where the blade does lock, and that is the Crossman Scout knife. It actually has the Linerlock set up to lock the main blade of the knife, and that is the only blade on this Scout knife that locks, is the main blade. Gotta push it over to the side. It's pushing it the wrong way. You see there, Crossman 918A Scout knife. Nothing else on here locks. Just the main blade. And then obviously Swiss Army knives, the 111 millimeter knives. A lot of the one-hand opening knives have a locking main blade. This is the rescue tool, and it has a, people complain because it's left-handed. The lock is, you got to press from the left. Tell you what, you're still not going to be able to close it one-handed. And the interesting thing with this locking mechanism, not only does it lock the main blade, it also locks the screwdriver tip down here. So you see the lock, the spring operates on both of them. So that's kind of cool. But that pretty much sums up the majority of the knives I have that have a Linerlock, is Cub Scout knives and electrician tools, and the occasional Swiss Army knife. So what we're left with are other knives that have a single blade, and that single blade locks with a Linerlock. And I really don't have that many of them because it is something that I really don't care too much for. I really don't care for the Linerlock. So usually if it is a Linerlock, it's because it's a pattern that I like to collect. And you'll see over here that a lot of the Linerlock knives I have are actually modern folders, flipper knives and stuff like that, which seem to work pretty well with a Linerlock. So let's get started and zip through these real quick. I'm going to start way up here with the case rust lock. This is the only rust lock I got, and this is a knife that I wish they would make without a lock. I wish it did not have the liner lock, but then I guess it wouldn't be a rust lock. And you see it has the same push here dummy kind of lock going on there that you push over to the right so that the blade opens and closes. I love the way the rust lock looks. I know a lot of people are very capable of opening and closing this knife one-handed. I can do it right-handed, sort of, but not easily. I know it takes practice, but being left-handed, it becomes a lot more problematic. And so I wish they would make this knife, especially considering it has a very good strong slip joint back spring going on already. I wish they just turned this into just a regular slip joint. I would like it a lot more. Yeah, as you see, the blade is not perfectly aligned. And a good reason this blade does not perfectly align is due to the pressure of that liner lock pushing the blade over to the side. So that's an issue with it, but I still kind of like it. I'm glad I have one in the collection, but it was a knife that I was thinking of actually collecting a lot of. It was a pattern that I like the way it looks, but I just don't like the way the liner lock works on it. Wish it had a back lock. That would be cool. If they did a back lock on this, that would be pretty cool. You know, you could put the mid lock up there, and then I don't know how you'd close it, but anyway, they should just make it a slip joint, tell you the truth. We'll go over here and my Turtle Man flipper knife. It's a big hunkin' folding hunter style knife. You see that nice harpoon blade there, and you see the liner lock right there. You can push down and close it, and it's got the good flipper going. And some liners, some yeah, see there, I can do it. It isn't so much that it's a liners are more friendly for right-handed people, but I am pretty good at closing a liner lock modern flipper with my left hand. It's a little tricky, but not that hard, so I get used to that pretty quick. And I got this one because really, you know what, who doesn't want a camouflage knife? And I really like the way the Turtle Man camouflage looks, and well, you just don't find them anymore. I knew they were going to be one and done. It's not like Turtle Man is even on television anymore. Sure, some people go, who's Turtle Man? Team Turtle. But so I grabbed this one when it came out, and I'm happy with it. It's actually pretty good. It built, it's basically a Rough Rider, but it says Turtle Man on it. Going to the other side, one of my liner lock fish knives. This is one for the, this is a World War II Army and Air Force, and also the, I'm sorry, Army, Air Force, as well as Navy survival fish knife. So this is thrown into the bailout bags for pilots, basically serving in the Pacific during World War II. And this one was made by Camillus, but a lot of other companies made it. But it is basically just your fish knife. You notice it's all stainless steel construction with a black plastic handle of some kind. You got the little clevis up here at the very top, so it's out of the way when you tie a lanyard to it, so it's not going to get in the way of the blade. And you got a nice long blade going on with it. And you got a liner coming across and locking it. And you got a nice long blade going on there. There's your fish scaler on the top. And as I've mentioned many a times, the large toothpick basically began life as a bird and trout knife. So this is a small game knife, so it's a wonderful knife for skinning small animals and stuff, and that's really why they threw it in there. Yeah, they put the fish scaler on the back there to make it usable for scaling fish and stuff like that, but you can see why it was made that way. And this is a knife I really, really wish somebody would start making again, because it is just a terrific knife. But I doubt anyone is ever going to get around to doing it. In any case, there's my Army Air Force Navy pilot emergency knife from World War II. Flipping back over to the other side, we have the Scimitar, my Artisan Scimitar, and that one really opens up nicely. See the liner lock there, and you break it, and it's pretty much, it is drop shutty, but I can't do drop shutty with left-handed. I really can't, and it actually has better action than that. But yeah, you can, it does drop shut. I probably need to clean it a bit. Need to repolish it again. It tarnishes real quickly. I'm sure everyone loves it tarnished. I like it nice and shiny. This is the one that's all bronze. They had it in brass, bronze, and copper. I went with bronze. There we go. The Artisan Scimitar. And this is pretty cool too. The way the little loop on the back here opens up so you can easily attach it or something. And it does have a reversible clip going on there too. So pretty cool knife with a funky blade. And it does have a forward finger choil, so that's pretty cool. Nice short blade though. But I carry the Dragonfly instead. And here we have a Rough Rider Linerlock work knife, which is basically a Linerlock sod buster. And this frame actually began life with W.R. Case & Son, but they don't do it anymore. So about the only place you'll find it now. Well, a couple different companies have done the same thing. But it's basically a locking sod buster, and it is not a small knife. See there, it 4 5/8 of an inch long or so. And you open it up, and once again you got a nice brass liner that comes across and makes full contact with the blade, so the blade does not move anywhere. This one has black jig bone. Still got the brass bird's eye rivet going on there. The propeller shield on this fell out at one time. I re-glued it back in, but other than that, I mean, it's a really good knife. The only thing I really don't care too much about it is this is supposed to be a coal miner series, and that's all they did to make this a coal miner knife, is just stencil coal miner on there. It's kind of like they really gave some short change there for any kind of coal miner knife. They could have put on a decent shield. Matter of fact, there's knives in the coal miner series. Some of them are black jig bone and other ones are black smooth bone, so they didn't have even consistency with the type of bone they were putting on the knives. But any case, what we're talking about here is the Linerlock work knife, and they have several of these. They also had one of these Rough Rider, not Rough Rider, but Smoky Mountain Knife Works did one of these for Remington, and like a green and red shotgun shell kind of handle looking thing, and they call it the shot buster instead of a sod buster. But anyway, this is the Rough Rider work knife. We'll put it back there. And then everyone knows about the Bullfrog, and it's a pretty good knife. I took off the pocket clip. I didn't like the pocket clip to thin it down a little bit, but it's got some good action going on with it. And you got the liner lock there, and you can push it over and close the blade up. Not as easily as you can this knife because this knife is bigger, but still got good action on the Bullfrog, and it's got a really cool looking blade shape there. I like the Bullfrog. And you got the green and black handle going on, which everyone kind of likes too. Very heavy, very stout, very thick knife, but really good action going on. And it's a liner lock. And as long as we're looking at the Bullfrog, everyone has already been talking about this one a lot too. This was given to me by Gizmo Car, and I really appreciate it because I was not going to get it because I saw how small it was. It's only 2 inches long and everything. Yep, see? If it's even 2 inches. Yeah, just barely 2 inches long, but really fast popping out there. You see the liner lock there. Obviously, you can just flush everything out if you wanted to. Nice tight blade on it. really long blade there. You see there. Oh yeah, let's go on this side so it looks a little bit bigger. See, now we're talking 2.5-inch blade, 2.25 inch, no, 2.5-inch blade on there with a cutting edge that's almost 2 1/8 inches. Yeah, we know those are the dishonest numbers. We're talking about 1.25 inches there on that blade, but it's pretty cool. And yeah, you know, 2 fingers on it, but it's nice and tight. You do have a lanyard hole, so if you wanted to attach a little lanyard or whatever you call them to the end there, that'd be pretty cool. And you do have the 2 shaded blade. You got the brushed stainless steel here, and then the blackout blade down there, so it's pretty cool. And that's the tadpole, so it goes with the bullfrog. I am glad I got it. Thanks a lot, Gizmo. It was a whole lot better than I ever anticipated it to be. Now, I guess you could say this is a modern knife, but really it's a marlin spike knife. It's laid out like a regular marlin spike knife. This is also a Meyerton. You can tell that by the whale on the blade there. This cutout up here, which you can kind of use for the thumb, to swing it around. That's a shackle key. I didn't mention that in the other video I did with the lockbacks, where I also showed a Meyerton marlin spike knife. This is the second generation. The first generation had the really interesting lock using the clevis on the back here, or lever. But as you can see, this is just a little loop, little clevis. It doesn't do anything except swing back and forth, so you can tie a lanyard to it. And that's because the Gen 2 knives by Meyerton use liner locks on both tools. These are Babinga wood handles and stainless steel bolsters going on. And this is the Crew, so it's a very small knife, really. Comes in at right at 3 5/8 inches long, so it's about the size of a canoe. But it's really a nice little knife. You can open it up, like I said, using the shackle key as like your thumb hole. It does have a liner in there to lock the blade. Press it over to the side and you can close it one-handed. And on the back side you also have the marlin spike, and it also locks using a liner lock. And it's 2 separate liner locks going on here. They're not the same one. You got one for the marlin spike, so if you notice, either way you're pushing over to the left to open and close it, or to close it back up. And you got it over here too, see? So it's a pretty cool little knife. And you see the nice aggressive serrations on there for cutting rope and everything. Really nice little knife. Kind of looks modern, but pretty much a very traditional knife. Like I said, liner locks have been around for a long time. We'll set that. Yeah, I'll put you up here. Everything's going to be missing anyway. Now this next one is one of those cheap feather knives, or whatever you want to call it, but I did some work on this. It's basically a friction folder. There is a liner lock in there, but you see the extended tang here that pops out, so you can open it with the extended tang and rock it around. But there is a liner lock in there to lock it in place, so you don't have to actually hold your finger on there to keep the blade open. I actually carried this for a while. It was a fun knife to carry. It's definitely something that people looked at. And you can see there, you can get your finger way up there on top of it safely. 448 stainless steel blade. Got the liner lock back here, so you can actually push it over. It doesn't easily close, but, well, it closes easily, but I cannot close it one-handed, I should say that. A very heavy handle, so you can also just grab it here and flick it down and it will flip open and lock. If you notice, though, something interesting here is got a buffalo nickel here, and on this side too, Indian head nickel, whichever way you want to call it. And basically, these did not come with the knife. And if you notice real close, like, you'll notice that These have also been filed down and sanded down around the edges so that I could fit them into the circle on both sides. I also had to take, these are actually 2 nickels, one on either side. And what I did was I filed down the nickel to the point where it was thin enough that I could actually get it in place here. And then I epoxied 2 nickels into the handle. So it was going to be a project for Cub Scouts. I was going to have them do it. I was going to buy them the knives and get the nickels for them and have them do it, but it became way too complicated because they would have never been able to get those nickels to fit in there. I started looking at doing it with pennies, but it just did not look the same, and so it never panned out. But pretty cool knife. Not something you see every day. Like I said, I can't quite close it one-handed, but yeah, pretty much a very, when you get right down to it, it might look like something different, but the action on it is very, very traditional and very much just a friction folder that happens to also be a liner lock. Anyway, let's move on to the last 2 knives. We'll go over here. I show this one every time I can, and this is one of my favorite Rough Rider knives, probably my favorite flipper knife from Rough Rider. Like it better than the Bullfrog, but the Bullfrog is about the same size and just as chunky as this is, and they both weigh about the same. So if you're a big fan of the Bullfrog, I can understand why, but I don't know why, but this is the one that catches my eye the most. And I tell you what, it springs out there. The action on this puts the Bulldog to shame. I mean, the way that blade pops, that thing is fast. It's just a blur of color. Should we race them? Unfair. I was pushing at the same time, but 1, 2, 3. Bulldog won that time. Bulldog, Bullfrog. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I don't know. But you know what? I could sit here all day and just do this because it's fun. This one definitely has a louder snap when it pops open though. Blade wise though, the Bullfrog does have it beat. It's got a longer blade, but really snappy and really pretty. Anyway, let's get to the last of my liner locks I'm going to show here. And I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's pretty dang close. This one definitely is my historical favorite. There's no doubt about that one. But this one, the Fisherman's Luck, just looks prettier. I mean, it's got a nice yellow handle. This thing is almost in mint condition too. Yeah, there's a little crack there, but you also got to remember the knife is about 50 years old here. And see there, Camillus, New York, USA. This one's about 80 years old. So got the brass liner lock still in place. This one's got the bottle opener, so you've got a little less cutting edge there. You still have the fish scaler there, but you got the Fisherman's Luck on the handle there. And well, I don't know, nickel silver bolsters, brass pins, stainless steel liner there, brass liners, stainless steel back spring. But as you can tell, the celluloid has cracked a little bit from age and everything, but that's my Fisherman's Luck. Probably, yeah, it's hard for me to choose which would be my favorite out of all the ones on the thing here. All of them have good things going for them, but this is pretty dang cool and something you just don't find every day. Matter of fact, these I think are a little bit easier to find, not necessarily by Camillus, but this knife is becoming easier to find right now than a Fisherman's Luck in really good shape. You can find a lot of them with the letters rubbed off, but you don't find too many of them in really good shape. Well, I thought I was finished with this after I finished doing the fisherman's luck, but then I went to hang up my Army Air Force fishing knife right over here where it belongs. And I looked down and saw another knife that I really wanted to talk to you about, and it's probably the largest liner lock I have. Definitely not something that you're going to wear in your pocket or anything, but it is still pretty cool. And that is my Army Air Force folding machete from 1943. This particular one is by W.R. Case & Son. It was also made by Camillus and Cartaragus. I have a video on this already, but this is my biggest liner lock, and this is probably also my favorite liner lock, although it's not truly a pocket knife. It would be kind of hard to keep this in your pocket. I think the closed length of this is about 11.5, 12 inches long. It's got a 5-inch handle and a 10-inch blade on it. And well, listen to the positive lockup on this. And remember, this is from 1943 or 44, somewhere around then. And if you see, there's the liner lock. See how that goes over and catches the blade? I'll put an inset picture of it also. And you notice I was grabbing the blade. That's because it's got this blade cover on it. Later on in 1948, Imperial would come out with one that has an integral blade cover, but the early ones had a removable blade cover that you really could not lose, because quite frankly, this lock is so tight that you really cannot close the blade without getting that cover back over the blade and grabbing onto the blade, pushing down hard, and then closing it back up. But there you have it. That is probably my favorite liner lock. My Army Air Force folding machete from World War II. And that's definitely a strong lock and a beast of a knife. Again, just a folding machete liner lock. Talk to you again soon. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.